Hi everyone, Curtis here from Goth Rider Creations, and in today's episode we're finally going to start shaping and sanding the body of the silent zombie. Stay tuned. So yes, back at it. I did want to apologise for the slowness of getting some episodes out over the last month. I did start a new full-time job recently, and yeah, everything's been a bit up in the air trying to sort everything out. It's also a big change to my working hours. For the last decade or more I've been basically working the crack of dawn shift, and now suddenly I'm down to a more normal, respectable 9 to 5 kind of a job. It's a good thing, but at the same time I've been quite used to finishing work, coming home and having 2 or 3 hours an evening to come into the workshop or do stuff around the house. Now that doesn't exist, so I'm having to adjust to just working on weekends, and anyone else out there with any autistic traits will know that that's a bit stressful. So yeah, trying to work on the new routine, so it's more than likely my episodes will now come out midweek. Then I've got time to edit them in the evenings. We'll see where we go. Also, speaking of which, I would like to do a little public service announcement. I stumbled across a song by an artist last week, and it absolutely blew my mind. And speaking of autistic traits, I just wanted to throw it out there for anyone if they might help them. I know this sounds a bit weird, you know, raving on about a song, but if you or anyone you know has ever had any issues with mental health, with depression, with chronic illness, or even just, you know, worrying about your creative abilities or paranoia about whether you're good enough, there is a song called Hi Ren by the artist Ren. I will link it in the description. Go and have a listen. This young man is absolutely amazing, and the story he portrays in this song is moving, to say the absolute least, and really puts a lot of things into perspective if you've ever sort of dealt with those issues. Ren, if you ever get to watch this, mate, I love your work. Hope the treatments are working and you get better soon, and if you ever get back down to Brighton, hit me up, man. I would love to build you a guitar, because legend. Anyway, let's get back to it. So, at long last, we're actually in a position to start working on this thing proper. I didn't expect there to be nearly as much work in actually getting all those electronics sorted, but that is life. My friend Bill, Borgonian Evolution, made a very good point last episode, was saying that he was concerned that the bridge screws might go through into the battery compartment, because obviously I've now got 5 tons of electronics. Thankfully it doesn't. I reassured him that it wasn't going to be an issue, and then the more I thought of it, I thought, yeah, the last thing I want is a screw going through a 9-volt battery. And I didn't think there'd be an issue, and there isn't. If any of them had gone through into that cavity, I would have literally just gone in with a Dremel, cut that screw short, and then just marked which one was the shorter screw. So not a major one, but yeah, it's always good to think of these things. Last thing you want to do is get everything sort of dry fit now, thinking everything's fine, getting it all under finish, getting it painted, and then putting a screw in and realise you made a big mistake. So absolutely that. So now we are going to get on to shaping and sanding. Now, as I like to think I proved last year with the Impossible build, you can do this with hand tools, with rasps, with files, with sandpaper. A DA sander definitely helps, but yeah, this is entirely possible by hand. The other thing I proved last year is it takes a bloody long time, and I don't want to do that this time. So I wanted to try and find some way of making life easier. Now, on the other side of the cheap versus expensive scale, you've got the orbital sanders, oscillating spindle sanders, I believe they are called. And I would love one. Triton, you still haven't gotten back in contact. I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. But in the absence of a sponsorship deal, I can't afford £220 right now. I just can't do it. The way I see it, if you're going to buy one of those, you buy the one with the oblong belt and the round spindles. You go the whole hog, you buy the full thing. You can get the little miniature versions with just the spindles, the round ones. I think they're about £180, but for the extra 40 quid, you might as well just get the big machine. I can't afford that. So this is going to have to be something in between, and yeah, we'll see what we do with that. So I have been hunting and hunting and hunting for a machine that I can buy cheap or second hand that can do as many jobs as possible. Until I have the money to start buying the specialist tools, I need to find something that I don't mind throwing a chunk of money at, knowing that I will be able to complete 2, 3, 4 different tasks with that tool. So after a bit of hunting, I have found, ta-da! What I managed to do is find a second-hand short scale tabletop pillar drill. I managed to get this for £40 on Facebook Marketplace locally, and apart from the age of it, it's almost brand new. I believe the gentleman who owned it barely ever used it, so it's still in really good condition. The bearings all seem fine, there's no play, everything's nice and solid. So this is the platform we're working from. Basically, I've always wanted a pillar drill. It would always make life easier for things, especially drilling the tuner pegs and things like that, string through sections. It's always really useful to have one of these. But I've been watching a lot of different people on YouTube making guitars and other things that use this for everything, as a miniature lathe, as a pin router, as a sanding machine, for pushing in frets. It can do everything. Now, I will do a caveat, because I know some people will say to me, oh, you shouldn't do that, Curtis, because you kill the bearings. That is absolutely true. You have a set of bearings in the top here that connect to the belt that run this thing. This is designed to push a rotating drill bit down and up. It's not meant to take sideways load from someone using it as a sander or a router or a milling machine or whatever else. It's not designed for that. And if you do that either professionally or long term, you will kill the bearings in the top of this thing. Now, thankfully, I used to work for the company that made these, so I'm quite familiar with the bearing sets that go into these. So if worse comes to worse, if I kill the bearings, I know what to do in regard to replacing them. The other thing as well is a lot of people will say that it will kill the bearings. If you're using this for 8 hours a day, constantly as a sander or a milling machine, then you might kill it within 6 months. With how infrequently I'm going to be using this thing, if it does any damage to the bearings within 5 years, I will be amazed. So it's not a major issue. For £40 for this thing, I'm happy to give it a go. If I do give it a hard life, I'm happy to repair it or replace. So this is always a good thing to look at. Until you can afford all of the big spanky tools, a stopgap like this will save a lot of time and money. So with that in mind, I have also bought a few little bits to help. So first off, we have a set of sanding drums. Now, I was looking around. You can get cheap ones from places like Toolstation for about £10. What I've done is got this set. Oh, I've lost that. Because it has rather large sets of drums in various different sizes. Ooh. And these are all 50mm deep, so these will be fine for bodies. The cheaper ones, I didn't realise, I very nearly bought them, they're about 1 inch deep and they're going to be no good. So obviously having the depth, depending on how deep you make your guitar bodies, means that you can get in and really go for these things. So this, I believe these were about £20 on Amazon. There's not many. I think this actually came from America, so this is ideal. It comes with various sanding drums and the sleeves, so this is the big win for me. And what I've also done is bought some of the rubber blocks to clean off the sanding drums. Always useful to have. And I have bought myself, let's get this out so I can show you on side cam. This, which is a carbide burr. These things are generally used for carving and shaping metal, almost a sanding drum for metal sheets. So I managed to find this quite cheap online, and again 50mm depth. So I'm going to see if this will be any good for doing the major works on the body. The way I see it moving forward, I could literally trace out the shape of the body, then use this and the carbide burr to actually cut out the major parts, and then go to the sanding drums. So that would save a lot of time in aggro with the jigsaw. No mistakes, no aggro. So that's that. Now, the only problem you've got is this platform is tiny, and being able to actually pivot a body on here without getting the wrong angle is going to be a lot difficult. It's as soon as you try and get into these edges here, you're just pivoting off the edge, and that's no good. So I was watching my friend Jackson over at Big Unit Guitars, and he made a platform that sits on here and then allows you to put a guitar body on here and have it a bit more secure. Now, he uses it for drilling, but I watched him do that and I thought, that's an idea. So I have made it with an extra large hole in there, which will allow me to mount the spindle in here, drop it down, and it will just slightly recess into that hole, and then I can get the body right up against. So I do need to put a screw in here, but I have already accommodated for that. So I'm going to set this thing up, get it all level, get it all organised, and then we can start sanding this thing. Well, that didn't exactly go to plan. I didn't really consider the thickness of the material, so that will not be useful as a way of cutting shapes out as you would think of maybe a scroll saw or something like that. That's the idiotic thing I had in my mind. Obviously the speed's too low and this is way too tall, so that won't work. But it actually has done a really nice smooth job of shaping, so I'm thinking to save aggro with the sanding drums so I don't burn them out too quickly, is I might actually do the initial sanding, so to speak, the initial shaping with the carbide burr, because it's designed to be worked with hardened steel, so it won't dull and it won't go bad. Worst comes to worst, all I've got to do is just give it a dust off to get any sawdust off of it. So I'm thinking that might be the way to go. Get the initial shaping done, get it all sort of 90 degrees or where I need it to be from the issues with the jigsaw cuts, and it is actually making quite a smooth surface really, so this actually might be the way forward. So I'm just going to give it a go. Right, and there we have it. So we've got this thing now shaped up. So all of the edges are now 90 degrees all the way around. There are a couple of slight gouges and areas that I don't want to go too far back. We'll see how I do with the sanding drum. If I can sand them out, great. If I can't, then I can just whack a tiny bit of filler in there. Consider it grain filling, to be honest. So yeah, I've got it all sorted. Where I've glued on the edge here, there is a little bit of a gap. Again, we'll see how much we can take out with the sanding drum, but if I've got to fill, I will fill. The main thing I'm happy about is I've got this side section much more sorted. What I've done is I measured the full thickness, which is 44mm, and then I've literally just gone down halfway, so 22, marked that on there, and then I just used a carbide bit and then chipped away until I got rid of that line, so I know that I am at least halfway down, and then the rest of it can be taken away with the belly carve. So that's all sorted. What we're going to do now is mount up the sanding drum and see how that does. Right, well, there we have it, all sorted. These sides are lovely. If anything, that sander works even better than the carbide bit. That jumps around quite a bit, whereas this will actually chew through quite a lot of material and keep it nice and flat. I couldn't be more impressed. It's absolutely brilliant. I've managed to get this side of the neck pocket nice and neat how I would like it. This one I'm going to take down a little bit more. I do still have a few more of these nasty edges to take down, and then make sure I've reshaped this side so it matches this side. I might take a little bit off this side as well, but I'm going to stop now because this thing's getting a little bit warm. So I think I might have to leave that for today and then come back tomorrow and carry on. But this is really, really impressive. I should be able to reshape these horns so I can get rid of the chips and the damage. You were right, Bill. I know you were right. Unfortunately, I didn't realise how much the jigsaw had done damage, but yeah, this is all fixable. Whether I just make these curves just a little bit deeper, it really doesn't matter. I've got so much meat all the way round. I could reshape this entire body to a different shape if I wanted to, so not an issue at all. So yeah, pleasantly surprised. It's nice to see one of my money saving tips has worked better than I thought it would. So yeah, that'll do for this minute. I'm going to go inside and I shall see you tomorrow. Hi everyone, back for day 2, and as you can tell, I've already been a little bit busy. I figured I would do the rest of that off camera. There was just, yeah, you've seen enough of that, or if you want to see more, by all means, you know, leave me a comment. I'll happily do a 3-hour long episode and call it ASMR or something. That's entirely up to you guys. But that is now sorted. Side cam on here. I've now got all of the edges parallel, all of them 90 degrees on the ends. Everything done, everything sorted, and they are now really nice crisp points, so that's looking really good. So I'm really happy with that. I understand why people don't do many of these shapes, because I got them all 90 degrees perfect, and I thought, right, I'm really happy with that, all done. And then I picked it up to move the pillar drill, and then I put my thumb in the wrong spot and I knocked off a corner of that straight away. So now I get it. So I reshaped it all over again, resanded it all over again, and then I went round and I just got thin super glue and I just soaked all of the sharp corners. So that is now sorted. They are all immaculate. I'm happy. Hopefully they'll last a little bit longer. So that's all done. It's all nicely shaped. The only thing I was concerned about is obviously where I've taken a lot of meat off of this side to fix the issue from the jigsaw. I was worried that this side was going to look a lot fatter. So what I did was I took a little template of this side and I got it all immaculately lined up with the center line and everything else, so I knew I had a pretty accurate reflection of this side. And then I flipped it onto this side and I discovered that not only is this thing not symmetrical, it's really not symmetrical. You can see, if I can roughly line this up the center line, it's not perfect, but you can see just how not symmetrical this thing is. There's like half an inch in places, the curves don't match, the points don't match, and I've not taken a massive amount off of this thing. At most I've taken maybe 2 mil, 3 mil off of this side just to clean things up. So yeah, so at that point I realised there's no point in me worrying, there's no point in me reshaping it, I'll just crack on. So I've kind of eyeballed all of the curves, all of the end pieces, the transitions from the neck to the body. I just kind of, I've got it looking good. You know, at the end of the day, it's a slight replica, it's not a complete replica. You know, I'm not making an actual zombie that's going to be sold, so quite happy. Now, next we move on to the belly carve. Now, I've had a look online and there's hardly any photos of the back of zombies, which does make things a little bit more difficult. I did actually find one, thankfully. There was an eBay listing from Japan many years ago, and someone showed the back of their zombie. And there is no actual belly carve as such. You've got a slight sort of 1 mil round over all the way around the whole back of the guitar, and then you've got maybe 3-4 mil at max, a slightly deeper round over, and it pretty much starts and ends where I had the issue. So I'm going to do something a little bit more comfortable. I've also decided I'm not going to go crazy with all the bevels all the way around the guitar. I spoke to Mrs. Goth Rider the other day, actually showed her the guitar, and she went, "Oh wow, that's a lot lighter than I thought." And I said, "Oh cool, so you're happy with that weight?" She went, "Yeah, that's a lot lighter than I thought." I said, "Cool, thank you, saves me a job." So yeah, so I'm just going to do the same as BC Rich did, just go a really light sand around here just to break the edge, and that'll do that. So I was thinking of doing a mirroring carve on this side, but obviously with the electronics there is 0 point. So all I'm going to do is literally just eyeball an area that looks about right. I'm not going to go too crazy into this section here because yeah, you can't really do a bevel onto the spike, it would just look awful. So I'm literally just going to eyeball So that's as simple as that. We're going like that, and on the side there. So I don't know what it's meant to be. We're winging it. We'll see what happens. If I need to change these curves a little bit at this end, and again on the sort of bulbous end on this end, I can do that. That's no big thing. We can finish that afterwards. So now what we're going to use. Now normally everyone just goes for the rasps and the files and the chisels, and they just knock this out. I don't want to do a hard line, so I'm not overly concerned about this. It can quite happily sort of like curve transition, but I want to use a power tool. Now a lot of people who go the power tool route will generally get an angle grinder and Cutzel discs, I think they're called in America. They're just metal discs with like carbide studs on it, and you can use those to carve pretty much anything wood. Look very cool. They look very interesting. Don't know where you'd buy them from, somewhere on the internet for a fortune. A lot of people over here just use flat discs, you know, the sort of automotive sanding flat discs, and do that. Now I'd be happy to give it a go, but I put a lot of effort into this at this point. If I slip with that and I knock one of these chunks off, I'm not going to be too impressed. So I want to find something power, but not too aggressive. So I figured, just not drop stuff, I would go for the trusty multi-tool. I've been using these for years, basically ever since they were invented. I bought one. Absolutely love them. Really useful for DIY, really useful for these kind of projects. So what I did, because these bits you could cut in, but it would be quite jagged, it'd need a lot of cleanup. So I hunted around and I bought some of these. Now they're mostly used for tiling. These are silicon carbide shaping and sanding pads. More often than not, I've literally watched tilers do sort of simple cuts with the cutting machine and then come back with one of these and then actually carve any shapes or edges they need into the tiles before fitting them. Curved baths, things like that. And they come in all different shapes and sizes, you know, randovers. So two are pretty much the same with that one. Even got a really nice little button sanding one as well, which is quite cute. So I figured I'd give it a go. It won't hurt this stuff, it's only pine. We'll see how aggressive it is. If I know my luck, it'll be the same as that carbide burr and it won't do much but tickle it, but I don't see the problem giving it a try. So yeah, let's get masked up, see if this works. Right, it wasn't as fast as I'd hoped, but it definitely chewed through the material. So yeah, as you saw, just went through that, kind of did the faceting technique to a point, took a good chunk off of that side, then took a chunk off of that side, and then kind of round it over. As I was rounding the whole thing over, it's not going to be a hard line. I didn't see the point in going, you know, flat 45 degrees across both bevels, so I just kind of did the facet, took a little edge off of the top so it wasn't a peak, and then I've just sanded it in. Now this is a really rough sand. I haven't even gone too crazy on that yet, but I'm quite happy with that. This transition here, it's a little bit funky. I've got to kind of see if I can find some way of sort of sweeping that in a bit better, but this transition here I really like. It kind of just flows to the point. So yeah, all in all, I am really happy with that. That looks like it'll be really nice, and it should be nice and comfortable. So that's it. For someone that thought they were going to be doing 5 tons of carving, actually it turns out really not doing that much, so that's really nice. That'll get sorted out with the final sanding, and then if I've got to adjust these bits, so be it. So yeah, I think that'll do it for this episode. Next episode is the joys of sanding. Again, because I'm painting it, there's no point in going too crazy, so I might only go to 120. At worst I'll go to 240 or something like that, but there's no point in doing like mega crazy sanding on this. I do have a little bit of filling to do, so yeah, that'll get sorted. So yeah, another step closer. So, as always, thank you so much for joining me. Please throw us a comment, let us know what you think. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and I shall see you all on the next one. Take care.